Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. This is Doug with News and Views by Doug. So, a lot of things happening today, a lot of things to talk about. Really, nothing about Iran, nothing's changed. They may be coming back to the negotiating table, but as you can see in the last couple of weeks, that doesn't mean anything. We don't know who's in charge, who's pulling the strings other than the IRGC. And we don't believe that they're going to negotiate in good faith, I guess is the best way to put it. But word came out from CENTCOM, which is the mouthpiece for the U.S. military, that today in Syria, they were able to take out ISIS leader, I'm going to screw up this name, Ali Hussein al-Uyurari. I screwed that up. But he was one of the main leaders of ISIS in Syria, and they basically bombed the hell out of him and killed him. So that's the second ISIS leader that's been taken out in a month. And hopefully we'll continue doing it. Now, here in the U.S., we've been talking about a lot of the voting and the politics and just things going on that are kind of screwy. And we know that there's been election fraud. And now the federal government, the DOJ, is going after these fraudsters and investigating everything that they can. But one thing is the federal government has requested the voter rolls from every state, especially if they're getting the mail-in ballots. And several states, the blue states, have basically told the federal government to go pound sand. And that includes California. And so basically, President Bush made an executive order that the U.S. Post Office will not be delivering mail-in ballots to the public if the state doesn't hand over their voter rolls. And a federal judge that was put in by Biden, she came back with an order saying that the Congress is the only ones that have power, and that the Constitution doesn't give the president any power to involve himself in voting. Well, she failed on one thing, and it was mentioned in a video, that, he can't interfere in the voting, really, unless there's fraud. But he's the president of the United States. He's the executive director of the government. And guess who owns the U.S. Postal Service? He does. And there's nothing she can do about it. So the U.S. Postmaster basically came out and said, nope, we're not going to be participating in the fraud of mail-in ballots unless those states cooperate with the federal government. So sorry, Democrats and lefties.
Breaking news this morning. Postmaster General David Steiner told a congressional panel just this morning over on Capitol Hill that under President Trump's new executive order mandate requiring states to provide lists of voters who received mail-in ballots, the Postal Service will not be delivering mail-in ballots to any states where officials refuse to comply. Wow, we got the confirmation this morning. And so, folks, as I said a couple of moments ago, as of this morning, now we have just gotten the confirmation by nature of shutting down all of these mail-in ballots going to these delinquent, radically progressive sanctuary states, the Democrats, they are now set to lose access to approximately 25 million mail-in ballots across the country. But you see, here's where things actually get a little bit complicated. This morning, I kid you not, the exact moment, the exact second that the USPS Postmaster, David Steiner, gave this update on Capitol Hill, can you guess what happened? The exact moment he made this announcement? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Breaking news. Boston-based federal judge Denise Casper, who was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, has just issued a sweeping order that bans the Trump administration from implementing most of its federal voter ID executive orders, including a proof of citizenship requirement. Judge Casper concluded the Constitution, quote, does not grant the president any specific powers over elections. The DOJ is expected to appeal quickly. And by the way, the appeal has already been filed. The DOJ, they knew, the Trump administration, they knew they were going to try to do this. They know the Democrats are going to try to pull something like this, so they had it ready to go. The Democrats, they were ready to go. The second the postmaster came out this morning and said, listen, we're not sending mail-out ballots, boom, far-left radically progressive Obama-appointed judge gets involved. The DOJ is already countering. Now, folks, here's the problem for the Democrats and their Obama-appointed radically progressive DEI low IQ federal judge. In her own injunction that she filed this morning, she says, and I quote, the Constitution does not grant the presidency any specific powers over elections. And you know what? Okay, she might be right. But that's not what President Trump's executive order did. No. You see, President Trump's executive order simply changes some of the operating protocols inside of the United States Postal Service, which is completely within his bounds to do so, considering that the USPS is a federal entity and considering that President Trump is the chief executive of the nation. So Trump isn't telling any of these radically progressive blue states exactly what they have to do or what they have to not do. He's just saying, listen, we've got a new rule for the USPS and there might be consequences. That's what we're saying here. So she tried to smack down Trump's executive order in a way that most certainly will get overturned. So as of saying this, an appeal has already been filed by the DOJ, and there's pretty much a 100% chance that we will win. Because as per usual, President Trump was 10 steps ahead.
But yesterday in New York, it's getting worse. People are saying that we've lost New York. I don't understand what's going on. First, they vote in Mamdani into New York City as their mayor. And yesterday, 3 Socialist Democrats of America, or Democratic Socialists of America, they won their primaries. And these are not good people. They're anti-America. They want the left to take over or the Muslims to take over. And, you know, one of them, who's a devout Muslim, she basically said that she didn't have any napkins. So she turned around and used the American flag to clean her hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a serious problem. Roll the clip.
It feels as though Islam is taking over the West. Would you agree?
Yeah, they are, inshallah, soon.
Inshallah, soon. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
world will become
Yeah.
Muslim, yeah.
Yes.
The Islamic law is the best law in the world.
Last night, we officially lost New York City to the enemy after every open border-loving, terrorist-sympathizing, communist candidate endorsed by Zohran Mamdani won their Democratic primary for Congress. And unlike Zohran, who concealed his hatred for America behind his fake smile, his cronies are unapologetically clear that they despise America. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with the news that the communists have fully captured New York.
A Fox News alert. And did you feel that? A socialist earthquake overnight as 3 Zohran Mamdani-backed challengers win their Democrat primaries and drag their party even further to the left. And while Mamdani becomes the party's new kingmaker, some Democrats are preparing to fight back.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani says the results of Tuesday's primaries were the beginning of a political movement. One of the far-left candidates he backed beat a 5-term incumbent in New York's 13th congressional district. Congressman Adriano Espaillat, the chair of the Hispanic Congressional Caucus, lost his seat to Democratic Socialist Darialisa Avila Chevalier. In New York's 10th congressional district, Mamdani backed progressive leader Brad Lander ousted Congressman Dan Goldman, who was the lead prosecutor in Trump's first impeachment trial. And in New York's 7th congressional district, another Democratic Socialist member, Claire Valdez, won the Democratic nomination. Chevalier and Lander have said they want to abolish ICE. They've also been critical of Israel. Valdez, meanwhile, wants a state takeover of utilities and housing and unions for all, and said Free Palestine was on the ballot.
Solidarity is the force that we need to vanquish Trump's fascism, to abolish ICE, and to stand up to the billionaires.
Abolish ICE, free Palestine, organize your union, and join DSA.
So they've completely abandoned the "we're not communists, we're democratic socialists" facade, as if that makes it any better, and have fully embraced a Bolshevik-style violent revolution in the United States.
And she wants to be running for office. And the thing I don't get the most is, the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party that we grew up with. It's either the ones that are truly Democrats, they've lost their will, and they don't have any guts and have become cowards to fight the socialist part of the Democratic Party. And so many people have turned towards the socialist Democrats, and even to the verge of communism. And I don't know if you folks notice this, but, the Democrats pander to whoever they think they can get their votes from. And for years and years, Black Americans were their main focus. Well, don't know if you noticed it, but they abandoned you. And they went for the Hispanic voters. Well, Hispanic voters, they're abandoning you now. And they're going after the Muslim vote. And they're going after the far left vote. The biggest thing I have is that so many people of the Jewish faith in New York City voted for Mamdani. He is a Muslim. He doesn't like you. He's anti-Israeli. He's anti-Israel. But you keep voting these leaning left socialists into office. Do you not remember the 1940s, 30s in Europe? Do you not remember from 1947 until present day what certain people in the world have done to you and are continuing to do? They hate you. So why do you side with them? That I don't get it.
But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of the Democrats, just a couple of hours ago, none other than Stephen Miller went absolutely scorched earth on the Democrats. Folks, first off, take a listen to this.
Sean, which is to explain to the American people that Democrats you grew up with, the Democrats that your mom and dad grew up with, the Democrats that your grandma and grandpa grew up with, do not exist anymore at all, not at any level of government. A vote for any Democrat anywhere for any office is empowering a party that wants to strip this country to the bone, to take away our security, our defense, our way of life. Just tonight, Sean, I saw a Democrat member of Congress online defending the Antifa terrorists in Texas who were just jailed for shooting an ICE officer. They shot an ICE officer. They were charged with terrorism, and a Democrat congresswoman was defending the Antifa terrorists.
And you know what? He's absolutely right. Listen, the Democrat Party of your mama, of your papa. Ladies and gentlemen, as of this morning, Congress is on fire. The America First Republicans over in the House of Representatives, alongside President Trump himself, have just this morning gone scorched earth. And right now, the Democrats, alongside all of their rhino friends, the Republicans in name only, well, they are absolutely panicking. You see, they all must have thought that they'd gotten away with it. They must have thought that they had successfully shut down the Save America Act. But I'll tell you what, I don't think any of them could have predicted or expected what has just taken place this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to get through. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First off, we have an update from Representative Anna Paulina Luna in the House. She says the House GOP is attempting to move a Senate bill with no voter ID and no Save America Act. She says, I will vote no on rules for this week and maybe even longer if they do not stop the games. I am not the only one either. Other House members, other House Republicans are frustrated at the games being played. This is a problem. The president agrees that the Senate needs to move on voter ID. Other frontline members depend on voter ID legislation getting passed. Stop catering to the Senate that doesn't do their job. So Anna Paulina Luna came out this morning. She said, listen, I, as well as a coalition of America First Republicans in the House of Representatives, we are not voting for a damn thing unless stapled to the front of it is the Save America Act. She says the House GOP, they tried to push through a housing bill. She says, we're not voting for this thing. No Save America Act, no vote. She said this yesterday. More information here. Myself, this is Anna Paulina Luna. Myself and 24 other members in the House have signed a letter pledging to vote no on any and every single Senate bill unless the Save America Act is passed. Now the Senate is sending a housing package to the House of Representatives, and to honor my pledge, I will oppose this bill unless the Save America Act is passed. The Senate cannot keep obstructing President Trump's agenda while ignoring election integrity. And she posts an image here, 25 members in the House Republicans, America First House Republicans, 25 of them. They're saying, you're not getting anything from us until you pass the damn Save America Act. Good for her. They're taking over, total shutdown. We heard from the House Freedom Caucus. Really, that's this group of 25 America First Republicans in the House. The House Freedom Caucus, they say, no Save America Act, then no Senate wish list. Nothing is more important right now than securing our elections. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a very serious talk. This segment here is meant to serve as a reminder, really as a warning of just how close we still are to this very day of losing our republic. I'll tell you what I mean. Just the other day, President Trump himself said something that all of us every single day need to keep in mind. President Trump himself, he said, and I quote, if you import the third world, you become the third world. And I'll tell you what, in case you don't personally believe that statement, guess what? It's already happening in many places across the country. It seems to have already happened in New York City. And yesterday, we all just got exposed to that reality again. You see, last night in New York, they held a series of Democrat primary House elections. And I hate to tell you all this, sincerely, I do. But guess what? Every single candidate that Ugandan communist Mayor Mamdani endorsed, he gave his personal endorsement, all of them ended up making their way successfully through the process. They all won. Congratulations, Mamdani. And I'll tell you something here. This should absolutely concern every single person here in the audience because these Democrat candidates are, simply put, anti-American filth, if I can be blunt with all of you. Folks, take a look at this. Here's one right here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Daria Liza Avila Chevalier just won New York 13 Democrat primary. Mamdani endorsed her. There she is. She's talking about defunding the police, swaddled up in her hijab. On a social media account of hers, she said this, I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my dirty hands on the American flag behind me. She had dirty hands at a restaurant or something, and she wiped her dirty, grimy hands. Oh, it's an American flag. I'll use it like a napkin. I'll wipe my grime on it. This individual might just end up sitting in the U.S. House of Representatives, folks, come November. Endorsed by Mamdani. Democrat House Rep, perhaps soon to be. I'll show you something else. We have another one here. How about this one? This same individual, Daraliza Avila Xavier is her name. She is the founder of an organization called CUAD. What is the mission statement of this far-left organization called CUAD? She founded the damn thing. She says, fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. Excuse me, pardon me? Folks, she is fighting on behalf of the total eradication of Western civilization, from her own words, the organization that she founded. We seek community and instruction from militants in the global South. She's looking to find support out of the U.S., militants in the global South. That's sort of a synonym for the third world. She wants militant support from the third world to eradicate Western civilization. Endorsed by Mamdani, won her primary election last night. Here's another one. Here's another individual, different one here, who was endorsed by Mamdani. Mamdani endorsed woman named Abra Kawas, won the Democrat primary tonight for a state Senate seat in New York, in the state Senate. Here she is saying that 9/11 was America's fault because of our system of capitalism, racism, white supremacy, and Islamophobia. That we deserved 9/11. And now she might just end up sitting in the New York State Senate. Take a listen.
And so and finding that the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is like a long trajectory, and we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right, if you look back historically, right, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right? And a lot of times because of U.S. policy or the policies in Europe. And so I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for a terror attack that a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc., is something that I kind of find reprehensible.
It's reprehensible. You know what's reprehensible? Is all these third world immigrants that we have charitably accepted in our country as refugees, talking about unifying and solidifying over their hatred of white Americans, of our American values, and then dedicating their entire professional lives after being given everything and taken into our nation out of their war-torn hellholes that they come from. We take them in, and then they dedicate their entire adult professional lives to tearing our republic apart. That is what is reprehensible. I'll tell you something here, folks. That little idiom, import the third world and you become the third world, sure is starting to make a little bit more sense now, isn't it? Now, you might be asking, who's voting for these people? How are they even winning their elections? They're so psychotic. What sort of American would actually vote for people like this? Well, I'll tell you something here. The voters are not Americans. They themselves are immigrants from third world hellholes that hate this country with every single fiber in their body. That is who is voting for these anti-American politicians, if you will. In fact, on that note, I've got something I want you to take a look at. Former CBP Commander Greg Bovino, the legend, he actually chimed in on this earlier today. Take a listen to what he said. Bovino, he says, "Wake up, America. New York City now has 750 to 1 million Muslims, up to 1 million Muslims in New York City. That is roughly 9% of the entire city. Similarly, it is the biggest concentration of Muslims anywhere in the United States of America. That is exactly why Darializa Avila Chevalier, speaking in her hijab about bringing her Muslim faith into Congress, just won New York 13 Democrat primary. Muslims vote in strong identity blocks. They vote in solidarity. It's not complicated. It's math, and it is tribalism, is what it is. We're still pouring in legal immigrants from these countries with zero assimilation pressure and no push for mass deportations coming out of the DHS. Greg Bovino, he's not happy. He wants more deportations. I think we all do.
And, we're always worried about the communists, as in Russia and China, North Korea. But I've been telling you for months now, the real enemy is the Islamic jihadists. And they want to take over the world, and they're trying their best in Europe right now. And they're trying to take over here in the United States. And their whole plan is you take over one area. You bring your whole population, like Dearborn, Michigan, and New Jersey, New York City. They said there's close to 1 million Muslims now in New York City. And in yesterday's videos, I showed you them taking over the streets of New York City. And nobody's standing up to them. And they have lots and lots of kids, and their population just keeps increasing. And their whole goal is to basically turn the country into a Muslim country, turn the world into a Muslim world. And there's problems now, but it's only going to get worse if the Western culture, the world, doesn't fight back. And it's going to turn violent. Unless we stop it now, it's going to be worse for our children and our grandchildren. I don't see America, the way we're going now, I don't see America being America in the next 50 to 100 years. Yeah, you'll say, hey, I'm dead, I don't have to worry about it. But your grandchildren will. So there's that. Now, the other enemy of the United States, and is now considered to be a terrorist group, is the Antifa people, who claim to be anti-fascists. And they call patriotic Americans and the right wing of America Nazis and fascists. But these are also the same people who are supporting Graham Plattner in Maine. You know, the guy who had a Nazi tattoo. And he's said and done a lot of other things. But they're supporting him. So, but, you know, supposedly the right wing, we're the Nazis and fascists. Well, they caused a lot of problems. And last year on July 4th, a group of 20 of them attacked a detention center where illegals were being held. And they fired off fireworks to distract the government agents and other employees. And when they came out, one person in particular, I think his name is Ben Song, he was a former Marine reservist, and he grabbed rifles and told others to grab their rifles, and he fired shots in the direction of the agents, hitting a police officer in the neck. That officer survived his wound, but these people were taken into custody. Half of them pled out. They pled guilty in court, but I think it was up to 10 of them yesterday. They went to trial and they were found guilty of terrorism charges. Most of them got 50 years. One of them got 30 years. But good old Song, he got 100 years in prison. And they're all going to federal prisons. And some of them are going to be facing state charges as well. Then up in Minnesota, several people were planning to attack federal agents, or they did attack federal agents, and they were arrested, and they'll be going to trial. And there's one who definitely was just going nuts. You'll see a lot of video of him. He was calling for people to rise up and take their weapons and go attack these ICE agents and anyone else doing their jobs, going after the illegals. So, you know what? There's a lot of bad things happening in this country, and if we don't stand up to them, we're going to lose this country.
The very first test of this terror designation of Antifa is the Prairieland defendants in Texas. These were the individuals who conspired to attack a federal facility, an ICE facility in Texas, actually shot a local police officer in the neck. This morning, they were sentenced. This from our friend Andy No. Check out his No Comment Substack. He covers Antifa better than anyone else. North Texas Antifa terror cell members sentenced to combined 450 years in federal prison. So these individuals were not just charged as terrorists. They were convicted as terrorists, and they will serve hard time in federal prison as terrorists. According to No, in the background here, the cell plotted and carried out an attack on the Prairieland ICE Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas on July 4th of last year. So we're coming up on 1 year since this happened. That's also a very quick conviction, I will say, a very quick process, just a year for something like this. It says jurors found the defendants guilty of offenses including providing material support to terrorists, rioting, conspiracy involving explosives and related crimes. The group used explosive fireworks to lure federal agents and facility personnel from the detention center before opening fire. Now, the so-called ringleader of all of this is a Antifa operative named Benjamin Song, and he identified himself as Antifa. Andy No has multiple images of him dressed head to toe in black bloc. That's what black bloc looks like when we talk about how these Antifa terrorists style themselves and their communication tactics. This case out of Texas is just exhibit A of what me and others mean and what we told the president when we went to brief him on Antifa last year about, you can complain about, oh, Antifa doesn't have an organized structure. That's the point of Antifa. So Benjamin Song was sentenced to 100 years in prison. He will die in prison. I do want to note that in total, there are more than 20 defendants who were part of this plot to attack this ICE facility. The ones that we just mentioned that were just sentenced are the more serious offenders. And none of those, by the way, who were sentenced with Benjamin Song got less than, I think, 30 years in prison. They're serving 30 years, 50 years. He got 100 years. And there are other individuals who will face less time, who also face state charges. Their legal woes are by no means over. And every time, I think it's a historic case. It's the first time this has ever happened in terms of the Antifa terror designation, terror trial. And hopefully this serves to dissuade some of the hangers-on of Antifa.
Happened July 4th last year. The group of protesters set off fireworks that damaged buildings and vehicles at the ICE detention center in Prairieland. Alvarado Police Lieutenant Thomas Gross responded to the report of vandalism. When he arrived and began issuing commands, Song can be heard on body cam video yelling, "Get to the rifles." Prosecutors say he then shot Officer Gross in the neck. Gross survived and returned to active duty. Prosecutors called the attack an ambush orchestrated by Song. They say that he and other participants are members of the far-left movement known as Antifa.
The federal indictment of 15 alleged Antifa members in Minnesota on conspiracy charges last week is sending Antifa's leaders into a panic, scrambling over the case's legal implications for the underground movement.
Authorities arrested 12 people on May 16th, while one suspect was already in federal custody, and 2 others remain unaccounted for. One of the accused, Kyle Wagner, has been in custody since February for urging followers to take up guns to stop federal officers.
One of the leaders of Direct Action Minnesota, defendant Kyle Wagner, identifies himself as Antifa, and he doesn't shy away from it.
My name is Kyle, I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They f***ed up. Okay, go watch my other videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my followers. This is everything I have talked about, and this is exactly what I said was going to happen. This is exactly what I said was going to come when we didn't go and march on Whipple with guns. Sorry, but welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you protected from literal Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your guns and stop these people.
So I've been given famous quotes by people, and this one is by former U.S. President Calvin Coolidge. And it basically says, or he said, patriotism is easy to understand in America. It means looking out for yourself by looking out for your country. Think about that. So I'm going to leave you today with these thoughts. I wish that you would subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. But please be safe out there. Watch out for each other. Keep your eyes open. If you see something, say something. God bless you and God bless America. You folks take care.